Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes, I can.
Okay, just checking. Thank you.
We'll go ahead and call to order the Wednesday, February 21st, 2024 regular city council meeting. Start with that. We will start with the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The civility pledge during the meeting, we pledge to promote civility by listening, being respectful of others, and acknowledging that we are all striving to support and improve our community. Roll call. Duncan.
Here.
Farland here. Gabriel.
Here.
Kramer. Here. Whitehead.
Here.
Next, we'll perfect and improve the agenda. Any changes needed for the agenda? Absolutely. We have a motion.
I'll move to perfect and improve the agenda.
I'll second it. Motion seconded. Duncan.
Yes.
Farland.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Kramer. Yes. Whitehead.
Yes.
Next, we have citizen speak. If there's anything not on the agenda that anybody would like to talk about, we are going to limit it to 3 minutes. Go ahead, Tom.
I know you're busy, so I'll be quick. I wanted to make a few comments about the public hearing on February 7th. First of all, I spoke at Citizen Speak about Solon's water. As you know, for the last going on 7 years, a number of people in town have been, we've been involved in water issues. But we want to clarify, no one has ever said or implied that Solon is running out of water, nor would we. That's something that no one knows. What we have been arguing for is a responsible, concerned regard and consideration of our water in every decision that the city makes, so that we can say without apology, our precious water. Second, regarding your public hearing, I was in attendance 2 weeks ago, and there were a number of people from that you don't often see out, some of us older, and it was a cold night. And they were here because they'd received notification from the city about some developments that may impact their property. And so they were here out of a legitimate concern. I would ask this council to consider in the future that attendance at council meetings for public hearings be mandatory, or some manifestation of that. It's important that the people that are here that you represent recognize you and you them. And for people to come out on an unpleasant evening, they were very concerned because I sat with them. And it's helpful for you to see these people and for them to see you. And to be on Zoom, I want to say respectfully to everyone, because I know you're all busy, COVID is over. And I believe at the very least, we can expect our elected officials to be here in attendance, not just to see us and us to see them and listen to each other, but also perhaps give us 5 minutes one-on-one after the meeting. I don't think it's too much to expect when people are here because of concerns about an impact on their properties. And finally, in regards to the public hearing, and I appreciate everyone's time, it was a long meeting, but there was no physical apparatus whereby any of us could understand the locations you were talking about. You were talking about entrance and exit on the highway and Old Mill Creek. And the people here, some of them were a little older, were just talking amongst themselves about where is that? And because it affected their property, it was of legitimate, important concern. And I would ask in the future, if you have some kind of a, I'm not familiar with things, someone said an overhead projection to see what you were talking about, the locations. An easel, I'm familiar with that, and you can point to it, and people can come up and look at it themselves, or even a handout. a handout that people can reference. So I ask that you consider, I would say, to encourage the council members, unless they're ill or they're out of town, I would ask them and urge them to be here in attendance. It's not the same as being on Zoom. And I live in the area of a couple of the council members. I would be happy to give anyone that can't make it here a council member, all of us would take you here and pick you up if that's a problem. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.
Any others? Next, we will move down to consent the agenda. That'd be approval of the minutes from the January 24th special meeting and February 7th regular meeting. Approval of the list of bills, treasurer's reports and transfers, and building permits, which there are a couple. We have a motion.
And if everything's okay with those, okay, I'll move to consent the agenda.
I'll second.
Duncan,
Yes.
Marlon,
Yes.
Gabriel. Cole,
Yes.
Kramer. Yes. Whitehead.
Yes.
Next, Public Works Director, Scott.
Make it really quick. We did have just this week, a couple water leaks. One was discovered Sunday and then we repaired it on Monday. And then yesterday turned right around. We had another one not even 50 yards away from the first one. And that's not related. The first one was actually a service line. And the second one was actually a water main break. Totally unrelated, just kind of neat that it was next door to each other. And then well number 4 is back in operation. So the well was fished out. Of course, there was nothing usable remaining that they pulled out, and everything's brand new, back together and running.
Thanks, Scott. Dave is unable to make it tonight. Okay, nothing. Right, is V.
She's unable to make it as well.
We will move down to the proclamation for the future business leaders of America. Come up. Huh? All right. Whereas the FBLA is the high school division of Future Business Leaders of America, Pi Beta Lambda Incorporated, FBIA PBL, which helps high school students prepare for careers in business through academic competitions, leadership development, and educational programs. And whereas FBLA PBL is a nonprofit education association representing the largest business career student organization worldwide and functions as an integral part of the instructional program of the business education curriculum. And whereas FBLA PBL helps to prepare secondary school students for college and career success through skill development and technical education that fosters improved productivity in business and industry, contributing to leadership in the national and international marketplace. And whereas the city of Solon recognizes the FBLA, PBL, and Solon High School for their dedication in developing leaders for the future by preparing students to become community-minded business leaders. Now, therefore, I, Dan O'Neill, Mayor of the City of Solon, do hereby proclaim February 17th through 24th of 2024 as FBLA PBL Week in the City of Solon.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for coming in and for all that you do, and we would love to be able to partner and help in any ways that we can.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Next, we have very important recognition. We have Megan Richardson celebrating for 5 years with the city of Sullivan.
And I just have a few words. I of course wrote them down so that I would remember what I was going to say. But yes, we are celebrating Megan Richardson's 5-year anniversary with Solon Public Library. Megan has been an integral part of our library team for 5 years. I am so grateful for Megan's effective communication strategies, expertise with technology, attention to detail. Oh, and her warm and genuine interactions with each person who comes in the library. In addition to creating communications about library activities and resources, which include a weekly newspaper column, social media posts, website updates, program flyers, monthly calendars, seasonal activity guides, indoor digital display, and our outdoor LED display, Megan also manages our DVD collection for youth and adults. She also provides all of our IT support for the library, managing computer and printer hardware, software licenses, databases, staff emails, and troubleshooting internet connectivity. She is a dedicated team member, a caring coworker, and is always happy to help with any task or project. All of these attributes contribute to the success of our library and benefit our community. Megan also served on the Library Board of Trustees prior to taking her position. She was on the board for a year, heading up the financial committee until she took her job in February of 2019. She is well known in our community and is a regular volunteer for Scouts, school activities, and the Solon Food Pantry. I also learned recently, while gathering information for the city wage review, that Megan has been designing websites and providing that assistance for 25 years. She obviously started when she was 5, but it was actually in a class in high school where she first learned how to design and build websites and has been doing that ever since for local businesses and organizations. I truly do not know what we would do without her on our team. Thank you, Megan, for your invaluable contribution to our library and our community. We also have a few visitors here from our 3 boards. So Sandy Lawrence and Janet Salathiel are part of our Library Board of Trustees. Chris Brown is part of our foundation board, and Paul Soppy is part of our friends group. So thank you all for coming to help celebrate Megan. And we'd love to get a picture if we can.
I've left the plastic on, so don't fingerprint.
You're all part of the library team. I mean, you just want to share it with me?
Sure.
Okay. Maybe you have this run. Great.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming. Oh, thank you.
Sure. Oh, I'm confused.
We're down to old business, ordinance 42, second readings. Yeah, please.
Yeah, just a refresher, this is the second reading of the ordinance that will set the zoning for the newly annexed parcel owned by Raymond Greasel. That was approved at the last council meeting. This will need 3 readings, and then the annexation will need to be approved by the Secretary of State. So we'll see this one more time next meeting. And then we'll get the proper approvals and publications to make it formal and official.
And this was subject to the initial zoning agreement that was passed last time before the first reading, so.
Any further discussion, comments, questions?
No, I'll move to initiate ordinance number 42, second reading.
Second.
Duncan,
Yes.
Farlinger,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Kramer? Yes. Whitehead.
Yes.
Takes us down to new business, resolution 2408, the fiscal 23 audit report.
Thank you. So, we have been busy working with John Olson, with Logian Olson, who's on Zoom tonight. The FY 23 audit was at year ending 30th of 2023. A lot of time, effort, work goes into an audit. In the state of Iowa, over 2,000 population is required to have a annual audit. We've been fortunate to work with John and his firm for the past several years, and really it is a very intense process. Credit goes to both Susie and Roland for doing really the bulk of the day-to-day process. It's very time consuming on top of already busy schedules. And we're thankful for John and Jim at Crown Logging, who have fine-tuned this long distance process. We kind of were forced to do this COVID, and we figured out how to do it well. And we appreciate their expertise. The process starts in the fall, and it goes very heavily through early to mid-January. And by then, they're working on just kind of more wrap-up items, which is what we've been doing for the last month or so. I will have to say that we're ahead of schedule this year, John, so well done. And from there, you should have a copy of the audit report, and then John will review that with you next.
Thank you, Kami. Can everybody hear me? All
Yes.
right. Again, my name is John Olson. I'm one of the owners, or the owner of Crown Logging Olson. And we did the audit June 30th of 23 for the city of Solon. The purpose of an audit is to express an opinion of the fairness of the financial statements. Are the amounts correct? Is the presentation and disclosure correct? Our opinion of the city of Solon's June 23rd, 23 financial statements is an unqualified or clean opinion. The report that you have includes our independent auditor's report. It does contain our unqualified opinion on the financial statements. It discloses management's responsibility and auditor responsibility. And it discloses the fact that the financial statements are prepared on a cash receipts and a disbursements basis of accounting, which basically means you record the income when you receive the cash, and you record the expense when you pay the cash out. It includes also management's discussion and analysis, which is a short synopsis required by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, and it provides a non-technical overview of the year's activities and is prepared by city staff. The financial information, the general fund balance decreased about 81,000 during the year to $2.624 million, which represents 90% of the total general fund disbursements for the year. That's a healthy fund balance for the general fund. This is the main operating fund of the city. Overall, the governmental fund balances decreased about 1.3 million. And part of that is due to the bond proceeds that were received in the prior year. They have now been pretty much spent on some street improvements and the fire station. The business type activities, which includes water, sewer, and recoupment funds, their balance increased about $48,000 during the year. Another part of our audit report is the notes to the financial statements. These notes provide more detail of the amounts in the financial statements, as well as other required disclosures. And farther back, we've got the required supplementary information and supplemental information. Includes pension tables and schedules, budget to actual comparison, non-major fund schedule, and long-term debt schedules. And it has our report on internal control and compliance. And this year we had 4 comments. 2 of them are repeats, and they've more than likely always will be because of the size of the city. The first one is segregation of duties and financial statement preparation. That one relates to that part of your internal control is supposed to be able to prepare the financial statements. And we don't expect you to actually prepare them. You just need to have a heightened awareness of what goes in those financial statements. Another comment, the budget was exceeded in the general government and capital projects functions, and a couple issues with the annual urban renewal report. I would like to thank city staff for, it was we worked really well with the city staff. Everything went good. Any questions?
Just going through the unqualified, that is a good thing for them. It's unqualified, so you hear that.
Yes, it is.
You don't connect those two as unqualified being a good.
Unqualified basically means it's an opinion that you're not qualifying it with anything else. It's the opinion, it's clean, it's good, everything's good. Any other questions?
Thanks for taking us through that, John.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the great work you do every year.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
We have a motion to approve the audit report.
I'll move
Aye.
to resolution 2408.
I'll second.
Duncan,
Yes.
Harlan, yes. Gabriel,
Yes.
Kramer, yes. Whitehead.
Yes.
Right, takes us down to resolution 2409, resolution to fix a date for a public hearing on the proposal to enter into a sewer revenue loan and disbursement agreement and borrow money there under and a principal amount not to exceed $3 million. Jim?
Thank you. John Olson, thank you. You don't need to stay on unless you want to.
All right, thank you.
This is a resolution prepared by Dorsey and Whitney. This is that action necessary to set the public hearing date for March 6th. This allows us to enter into the planning and design loan, the SRS portion of the loan that does not exceed $3 million for planning design. And a reminder, this is an interest-free loan. So this sets the public hearing for March 6th, and we'll have a public hearing on March 6th, and then there'll be another resolution as well.
Okay, I'll move to approve resolution 24-09.
No, second.
Duncan,
Yes.
Harlan? Yes. Gabriel?
Yes.
Kramer? Yes. Whitehead?
Yes.
Takes us down to resolution 2410, the resolution for the American Rescue Plan Act, also known as ARPA allocation.
Yeah, thank you. I recently attended a seminar that the Iowa League of Cities had offered to communities as we get ready to, our reporting period for the ARPA funds is April 30th. It was highly recommended that if we had not done a formal resolution to formally allocate those funds to do so. So that is what this resolution represents. These funds were allocated to the Chapel and Elm Street water main project. We received a little over $402,000 in 2 tranches, and that project exceeds $402,000. But we just want to make sure we're dotting our i's and crossing our t's, because these are federal dollars. We just recommending this resolution. We don't want to be at any kind of risk of not complying with the requirements, and this is just a resolution, just kind of providing that, I guess, step that, yeah, documentation.
Any questions over any of that?
I'll move to approve resolution 2410.
I'll second.
Duncan,
Yes.
Farlinger,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Kramer? Yes. Whitehead.
Yes.
Next with resolution 2411, the fiscal 25 budget, setting property tax levy public hearing.
All right, so this is a resolution that is setting the public hearing for April 3rd. While we don't have to decide what that levy rate is right at this moment, we will later at the end of this meeting. But what this is doing is setting that public hearing for April 3rd. The new requirement for, as required by the state, is this has to be a standalone hearing. It cannot be part of another meeting. So I left the time blank on this resolution because they expect this to be a standalone meeting of at least 15 minutes. One of the thoughts I had is that we just do a 5 o'clock meeting, and the only thing that can be on the agenda is this public hearing. And I just, before we confirm the time and then we have the regular meeting at 5:30 on April 3rd. So I just, wanted to, yes, we need to confirm, is this 5 o'clock, can everybody, at least 3 council members be here at 5 o'clock on?
I can.
I can.
Yes. That should be fine.
And then, so for that resolution, we'll just, I'll just at that time, 5 o'clock on April 3rd. For that special meeting for the public hearing.
I have a question about the time. A lot of people will be working and they're getting off work at 5 o'clock, so hours short, which means particularly if they're hourly paid, they will not be paid for that time. They'll have to leave work early in order to make the meeting at 5 o'clock. And some of the public might not be very happy about that.
Your thoughts on doing it at 5:30 and pushing the council meeting to 6? I don't know how long the agenda, you know, how long that agenda would
We
be.
don't really know how long that agenda is going to be.
In years past, that we,
This is the first time we have to do it like
Oh.
this. This is a new requirement. Yeah, so.
thoughts on?
I'd be fine having the meeting, the public hearing at 5:30 and then just pushing the meeting a little bit later. That way members of the public can be here if they want to.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that too.
Any concerns? John, don't.
We'll be traveling that day anyway, so I won't be there.
I'll move to approve resolution 2411 with the starting time of 5:30 PM on April 3rd.
Duncan,
Yes.
Farlinger,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Kramer? Yes. Whitehead.
Yes.
All right. That takes us down to other business, council commitments.
I have any new updates since the last meeting?
One, we did have Lauren, Andrew, Cammy, and myself met with members of the Knox County Sheriff's Department to start discussions on for a long-term contract with that. So I was pretty informative. They went over just a lot of data and behind things that they would recommend on this. It was each meeting, nothing said or anything like that, but it went pretty well.
Basically, same thing that Sheriff Humble told us at during the budget. Is that they'd like to see us, get a plan for growing hours. And how that looks, I think is part of the committee's task, is how that will look over the next 5 years with a goal of entering the 5-year contract. I would like to, acknowledge, Susie. And, because I don't know that everybody realizes how much work goes into an audit and how much, a clean audit represents the work we do every day, especially Susie, who handles a lot of the finances for the city, the checks coming in, the checks going out. And it means a lot to get an audit report that's glowing like we received tonight, because we get a lot of complaints at City Hall. We don't get a lot of people calling and saying, hey, great job. So it shows that the work we do every day really does make a difference. And so reports like that mean a lot to us, and it means a lot that we have somebody like Susie who is as conscientious as she is, so that we get good audit reports like this. Plus, it's just a lot of work to do an audit, so it's a lot of work on top of already busy schedules. So thank you, Susie.
Council comments?
I just want
Great
to
job.
echo that. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, great job on the audit. That's really cool.
I was going to echo that, and thank Susie for all the diligent work she does. And would have been there in person to thank everybody, but I got a house full of sick people, including myself. So, Zoop, thank you.
Thank you for staying home.
A couple more thank yous on top of everything for the audit. We had Roman had his last day last Friday with it, so definitely appreciate everything he did for us over the years, and want to wish him luck, and also John for running the meeting, last meeting while I was out of town for work. So thank you for that. With that, we will plan to recess. We do have a closed session coming up. It's council to consider entering into closed session pursuant to Iowa Code chapter 25 or 21.5J, allowing for closed session regarding our real estate transactions. So we'll go ahead and recess and
I'll move to go into closed session.
we're not going to go into
we're
closed session. We're going to recess, break, and then we'll do that.
Okay. Motion for recess.
Those on Zoom, just hold tight. We're gonna have a short break, and then we're gonna enter into a closed session where only city council members will be allowed.
There you go.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Have a good night. You too. This,
Yeah.
Yep.
Come on in, join the party.
Brody's right here. He's driving by, so I'll stop in for this. He's going on.
Sorry, Brody, I was supposed to text you, I forgot.
Oh, no, that's all right.
Oh.
Brody canvassed here, we're here.
There's some neighbors there.
I know a guy. Good thing to know all sorts of people like that. Yep. Thank you for that. Okay, go check out.
Oh, yeah.
You got it.
We're now in the working session, for the fiscal 25 budget, work session. Candy.
All right. So we don't really need the computers. You don't need the computers anymore at this point. You should have paper copies of everything that we're going to review. And everybody on Zoom should have gotten that information this afternoon. Where we're at is we're kind of at the final stages of our process. One of the last pieces that we were waiting on was our insurance. So that we can have some idea what to budget, how that impacts our levy. And so I was able to meet with Chris Carney and Mike Kroll last week, and they've given me the quote option overview. And this is for this April. So that quote option overview is going to be our insurance as of this April. Which is a 17% increase over last year. What I don't have yet is how this breaks down per each department, because it isn't, it doesn't always work out to be equal to every department. It depends on how the properties are, they're valued. But for our purposes, we have to have something to budget. And so the next sheet, that is a graph that says EMC insurance, breaks down, it shows the FY23 and then the 17% that we're expecting for FY24. And then they told me to plan on that same 15 to 17% for FY25. So that's our goal. We're trying to figure out how we're going, what to budget for FY25. And the reason this is important because we levy that property tax. We levy that on our property tax, so we need to know what that number is. Now, the fire agency is part of that 192,000 quote. And it's estimated that their portion of that is around just under $16,000. And then the agency reimburses the city for that portion. This has us at a $5,000 deductible for property. And I have one budgeted into the budget so far. I was able to review that claims report with them in more detail. And there's actually only been an average of one commercial property claim over the last 10 years, one per year.
Cool.
So there's other, there's automotive, there's personal, but as far as commercial properties, we're only averaging 1 year. So that was good news. And I have the one $5,000 deductible budgeted. So with this quote, with our graph, we then look and see how does that impact our levy certification. And so the levy certification of Johnson County taxes, I've entered the 2,002 200,000 to whatever, I can't say that. Too many twos. I've added that into this certification, and it has changed our levy rate from the 11.09934 that was discussed at the last meeting after the wage adjustments and COLA adjustments to the 11.21346. What does that mean to the property tax, the person paying property tax? That's when you look at the levy information. And that is the, it says levy information at the top. The first one for FY24 shows what we're paying, what residents are paying right now. For a $300,000 home, they're paying $1,802.68, and that's at a $10.99 levy. Version 1 under FY25 is the original levy that we discussed way back in January, where we talked about it being 11.08. And as you can see, it's still considerably less, even though it's higher, because the rollback has changed. And then I go on to show version 2 and another version 2, which should be version 3. So version 2 with the wage adjustments and COLA is what was discussed at the last meeting, the 11.09, and it shows the difference of what that impact is to residents. And then what should be version 3 insurance shows the 11.21. The difference between last week's 11.99 and this week's 11.21 is just under $16 a year for residents. Still considerably less than this year. So I guess the decision that we need to make tonight is, how comfortable are you with that levy? And I've included the Johnson County levies again that we looked at for comparison. Even at the 11.21, we would still be the third lowest levy in the county.
I think my initial thoughts on it are, yes, it's the first time we'd be over that $11 levy. But if you look at just our costs and where we would rank from a levy standpoint, I think let's not get stuck on the $11 levy because of the rollback. It needs to be higher to still cover our expenses with that. And so I am comfortable with the 11.21 with that, because we know that we provide great services, that we are taking care of our staff. That this is still a community that people want to come to, and I don't see this as a community that people see our levies at 11.21 and change their mind about wanting to be here. So I know that $11 plus levy, there was discussion a year ago around just that there's negativity around that we came in under it. But I don't want to see it stuck on what is that levy amount, but what are we offering? And then keep in mind, the rollback is a huge driver to this.
Agreed, Dan. Like, I couldn't have said it better. Excellent.
I agree with you 100%. If you look at the difference, we're going to the 11.2, but our residents are still paying less taxes. So cost of everything is going up. You're we're taking care of the community, we're taking care of the employees, of the community, and we're having our residents pay less in tax, even though that percentage is higher, they're still getting a tax break from, if you look at the last year's numbers.
I would agree. We're still the third lowest in the county. And this was always going to be an education year just due to action by the state. So I think if we will have those engagements with the community, explain the rollback, the fact that they are still paying less taxes, it just affected that one number. And make that the new baseline going forward.
And I think something that can't be overlooked is how hard Cammie, her staff, us as a council have anguished over this. So I think we're representing our taxpayers the best way we possibly can. We don't want to go higher. We've obviously really mulled this over a lot. So I think our community needs to understand, yes, we're the third lowest, but this is where we got to be. I mean, it's not a frivolous decision that we jumped up and moved it where we have. So a lot of time and effort and thinking and brainstorming and all that has gone into this. And I think we can all feel good about that. And I agree with you, Dan.
I feel like from an education piece, you think back to our first meeting, the slide that you had the year before with the rollback changes and everything like that, if we could have a figure that we could put on the website that we could share to just help educate folks on that, because if you think of a headline, it's gonna be tax levy jumps how much, but the commentary that we need with that is, but the rollback also dropped by how much, and just get that out there that folks will be paying less in property tax than they were a year ago, even though the levy's higher.
And we'll have to caveat, they'll be paying less city property tax. We don't have control of the other 10 or 11 levies, but we know the city tax. And I can even do something like, you know, that dollar bill I could create something that kind of, you know, similar that, you know, reflects, you know, where is your dollars going? Something like that. But yeah, education is going to be a really important piece of this because everybody gets their property tax bill, and it's going to be, we think it's going to be less, as it should be, but we also don't have any control over all the other levies. And everybody's going to be trying to make up the difference of their losses through the levy system. The next few years are going to be really interesting to see how the final property tax bills actually come out. You know, the intent is to be less, but if everybody like us is raising the levy to help cover expenses, it may not be. So, well, so at this point, I have to start entering the information. It goes, once I enter it into the system, then it will go to the county, and there's going to be a mailer that goes out to all the residents in the county that tells when the public hearing is for their community, and what the levy, property tax levy rate's going to be, and we can go down, but we can't go up. So it won't be, I'll submit it at the 11.21. If that's what everybody wants, it sounds so good. Looking at next, we're going to go to the revenue expenditure budget recap, because with the insurance changes, this does change the recap a bit. There was also one final piece out there. We were waiting for the Department of Management to complete, and there is a backfill, so to speak, for this new business tax that's supposed to be coming back to cities. We were just waiting for it to get finalized. It ends up being $10,000, but it's better than zero. So that's reflected in the revenues. And then the expenditures have been updated with both the wage adjustments, the COLA, and the insurance that's reflected here tonight. on this information I've shared. So as we look at the general fund, we're currently showing a $38,000 deficit. The $80,000 adjustment is coming from capital equipment. That is for, there's the expense of a new truck, and then there's a expense of a new, what is it? Is it a box for the other truck? And so while those are expensive, those are offset with capital equipment funds. So then the 38,000 deficit, this does include the $45,000 for the church wall repair. So if you take the church wall repair out of there, we're actually sitting slightly in the black. I'd still like to propose that, see if there's any surplus for FY23 and, or this year that could help offset that expense. So I would say that one, we could leave it in there, we could take it out. But the intent is to either use surplus or see if the church will help pay for it. I don't know why it's all our expense. You have a strong feeling either way, Scott? We just take it out and then we would amend the budget if we can manage to pull it off this year. You feel better leaving it in there?
I would feel better leaving it in.
Kind of do too, because otherwise other things come up and eat up that, you know, and are vying for those dollars. So I kind of feel that same way. I mean, on paper, we're in the red, but we really not knowing we're not going to spend that unless we have it.
I feel that, you know, the Catholic Church has to come up and help in this endeavor. You know, this wall was put in because of the Catholic Church, and as far as I can research back, it was the Catholic Church that put it in. Yeah.
I think they come and said, can we put this in if we pay for it? You know, I think the council's like, sure, you know? Everybody feeling comfortable with that approach on the general fund?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Road use tax has a deficit, but we have dollars, we have dollars that have not been spent, that are sitting there that can cover that. So we're not concerned about that. We reviewed that. Same with debt service. Those are transfers, not a, TIF and debt service. Those are transfers that cover each other. So we get down to water utility, and you see in the 77,950 in the miscellaneous adjustments. What's going to help with that fund, bring it into balance, is the capital improvement levy that we get. It's bringing in on the certification. It's the second to the last line. It's bringing in $116,583 in FY25. That can be used to bring this water utility into balance. And this is also going to be the final year of our well for bond payment. So after next year, we'll no longer have that well for bond payment, which relieves the fund by about $62,000. So this is kind of what I would call a Band-Aid year that we're going to need to use that capital improvement funding to use for water to help balance the water fund. Those funds in the past have helped with water tower repairs, the meter change out program, and they're currently earmarked for the future water tower repairs. And that would allow that fund to come into balance. And then the water utility, the sewer utility is at an $88,000 deficit. $80,000 of that is the set aside that Scott would like to begin for I&I issues. The approach that we discussed is to leave the $80,000 in there, but know that we're only going to set aside as much as the fund will allow. So we'll monitor that, as we do quarterly. Maybe we get to the end of FY 25 and find out we can only set aside 40,000, or maybe 25, or maybe it's 100, but 80 of it's gonna go toward this and the other 20s can be allocated somewhere else. The reason we liked having it in here is to make sure it doesn't get eaten up by something else. And then it allows him to start building that capital, replacement fund, like his capital equipment fund. Because as he shared, it's difficult to get a contractor in here to do 80,000. I mean, they're looking at larger projects, and it's gonna allow us to build some capital to get some of those larger projects done. And with that $80,000, then our deficit is under 10,000, which I think is, is not a huge concern. Anybody have any concerns with that?
No, you've done a good job of keeping us informed.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you, Cammie.
Water treatment plant, those are just expenses as we're going forward. And then the recoupment fee is, again, that's just, it's not really a shortage. It's just on paper, we expect to get in $50,000. And then we're $55,000 in recoupment fees, but we're transferring out $120,000 for curb and gutter, which we do every year. And then that's repaid in TIF. On paper, it looks like we're $65,000 in the hole, but it's not. It's just a more complicated tracking than this sheet lets us allow. Overall, I think that there's been a lot of hard work done this budget session by everyone to bring forth a very responsible budget. And so Solon, that, for each department's done their part to be ultra conservative. Council's done their part to prioritize staff and essential services. And this is gonna just be the norm, as we get through these next 4 to 5 years, as we try to figure out what this new property tax is really gonna look like, for our city. The final part of this would be to look at the capital improvement plan list as we get ready to do a full capital improvement plan update. However, I just simply ran out of time today. So we'll put that off, not essential, because I think we all know the sewer plant's at the top of the list, and there's really not a lot of other projects vying for second place right now until we've got a good understanding of, how that's gonna work out. So with that, I really don't have anything else this evening on the budget.
Thank you to everybody for all of the work on this. And again, you make this easy on us. So thank you for all the work.
Agreed.
Yes, impressed every year.
Thank you. It gets harder, getting harder. Make it look easy. It's hard first.
So with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, everyone say aye.
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 Any opposed? Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Have a good night.